David, try this. Just one sip, Laura said, her smile almost too perfect, lingering like a question I didn't want to answer. I held the mug in my hands, feeling the warmth but sensing the chill in her eyes. Something was wrong. Thanks, but I'll finish mine first, I replied, keeping my voice steady. Every instinct screamed at me to step back, but I forced calm. She tilted her head, pretending casualness. No hurry. It's just my little treat for you. From the kitchen, Margaret's voice cut sharp through the morning quiet. Laura, you promised me that coffee 15 minutes ago. Laura's face tightened, a flicker of annoyance passing for a heartbeat. Coming, mother, she muttered, a trace of something darker in her tone. She handed me the mug anyway, lingering in the doorway, as if she were waiting for my reaction. I looked at the coffee. Vanilla, with an undertone that reminded me of the science lab at school. Sharp. Medicinal. Wrong. My mind raced. 2 weeks ago, Laura had increased my life insurance from $300,000 to $3 million. She'd pressed me about my will in precise detail, asking questions I didn't fully understand. And now this. Margaret entered the living room, settling into her favorite armchair, eyes narrowing. Finally, someone remembers me first, she said, lifting the mug. She sipped deliberately. I followed quietly, carrying the mug toward her, my hands steady. Laura made this for you. Mine's being prepared now. Margaret's eyes lit up, the familiar gleam of superiority I'd endured for months. She drank, smiling at me as if sharing a secret. Laura appeared behind me, her hand trembling, lips parted in a wordless question. Fear, not anger, filled her face for the first time in months. I need to check on her, she said, moving fast toward the living room. I stayed behind, pretending confusion. Of course, just making sure she likes her coffee, I said lightly. Margaret's throat moved as she swallowed. I saw the metallic aftertaste hit her, a twitch passing over her face. My heart pounded, but I remained calm. My instincts had been right, but the danger had shifted to someone else. Laura's eyes met mine. Panic flared. She'd miscalculated, and the betrayal she'd been plotting for months was unraveling in slow motion before me. I reached for my phone, 911 already on the screen, fingers hovering. Margaret coughed, a harsh, wheezing sound. I stayed close but controlled, ready to act. The house was quiet now, save for the hiss of the morning sun on the windows and the faint, metallic tang in the air. Laura's perfect morning had cracked. My own perfect facade had shielded me just long enough. This was the morning everything changed. The mug hit the floor, coffee spreading across the Persian rug Margaret had insisted we buy, dark liquid seeping into every crevice. Her face was pale, her hands clutching her chest, breath coming in short, panicked gasps. I feel dizzy, she rasped. David, my chest. Laura dropped to her knees beside her mother, makeup streaking down her cheeks as reality crashed into her carefully maintained composure. Mother, stay with me. Just breathe. Everything's going to be okay. But we both knew it wasn't. I grabbed my phone, dialing 911 with a voice that somehow stayed calm despite the chaos. Yes, my mother-in-law appears to be having a cardiac event. She's conscious, but in severe distress. Please send an ambulance immediately. Margaret's hands twitched, her body trembling as she tried to speak. The convulsions started suddenly, violent and uncontrollable, her body stiffening, eyes rolling back, foam at the corners of her mouth. The sharp tang of coffee, mixed with something metallic, filled the air. Laura screamed, a raw, terrified sound, and tried desperately to hold her mother steady, but it was impossible. Mother, no, she cried, voice breaking. I stayed on the line with the dispatcher, giving updates with the professionalism I'd used for years counseling troubled teens. She's having seizures. Yes, she drank coffee. We have the cup. No, I don't know about medications. Laura turned to me, her face pale and contorted. You knew? She whispered, the words barely audible over sirens approaching. Knew what? I asked, keeping my expression neutral. That you, her voice broke. That you knew I was going to, that your plans to harm me were already in motion, I said, steady. You and Ethan Blackwell were planning this for months. I've had access to the emails and texts for 3 weeks. Her mouth opened and closed, shock overtaking her grief. How did you know about Ethan? Every message you ever sent me, every email and text about insurance money, The plan to disappear after a grieving period. It was all backed up on our shared cloud. I knew before you even thought you'd have a chance. The paramedics arrived, moving quickly. Two immediately worked on Margaret, checking vitals, giving oxygen, and prepping injections. Another noticed the spilled coffee and the strange residue left behind. We need to test this, he said, gloves snapping on. Could be poison. Laura sat frozen, hands gripping her mother's, mascara running in black streaks. I explained. Laura prepared a special coffee this morning. Vanilla blend. Meant for me, but Margaret drank it instead. The paramedics' eyes widened, radio crackling. Police. We need law enforcement here immediately. Possible attempted homicide. Detective Naomi Bennett arrived 20 minutes later, surveying the scene with sharp, precise eyes. By then, Margaret had been rushed to the hospital, unconscious but alive. Laura sat on the couch, staring at the coffee stain on the rug, expression hollow. Mr. Reynolds, Detective Bennett said, I need a detailed account of what happened. I handed her a folder containing printed emails between Laura and Ethan, texts discussing insurance policies, death scenarios, and even receipts for chemicals purchased online. The plan was meant to look like an accident, I explained, or a suicide. The coffee was supposed to be my last drink. I would have been found in my office, and she'd have played the grieving widow perfectly. But I followed my instincts and avoided drinking it. The detective studied the evidence, then turned to Laura. Step forward and place your hands behind your back. Slowly, mechanically, she obeyed, eyes locking on me with a cold, empty hatred. Mother was right about one thing, she said flatly. You've wasted your life on kids while men like Ethan build real legacies. Maybe, I replied quietly, thinking of the hundreds of students I'd helped, the thank you cards lining my office walls. But I'm alive, and I'm free. That's enough for me. Laura was led away past neighbors, past the house she had decorated to impress clients, past the white Lexus she would never drive again. Later, Ethan Blackwell was arrested at his luxury apartment. Evidence tied him directly to the plan, including a draft suicide note he had practiced forging in my handwriting. Investigators discovered that he had a history of suspicious behavior with former partners. Margaret survived, but the poisoning left lasting nerve damage. She moved to an assisted living facility in Morristown, walls painted cheerful yellow, nurses speaking gently. I visit every week, not out of forgiveness, but duty. She sits by the window, sometimes staring at me with something that might be fear or understanding. Laura received 24 years for attempted murder. Ethan received 14. The trials were swift, the evidence undeniable. The house sold quickly. I moved to a one-bedroom apartment downtown, closer to school, neighbors who kept to themselves, windows that opened fully. My daughter, Emily, came home from college and asked why I hadn't gone to police earlier. Because leaving wouldn't have stopped them, I told her. The plan was already in motion. Sometimes, letting someone reveal their own intentions is the only way to survive. My son, Ethan, had a harder time accepting the truth. She tried to kill you over money? Yes, I said. Over $2.5 million and a fantasy of a life with someone else. Your mother lost sight of what mattered. She traded a real family for a false dream. Months later, life had a new rhythm. Black coffee in my own kitchen, student meetings, grading papers, the quiet comfort of routine. Laura Collins, a history teacher with a bright laugh, began joining me for post-work coffee. Coffee after work. I promise it's safe, she texted. I smiled genuinely. Deal. You can even pick the shop. For months later, we were quietly dating. She never judged my small apartment or my old Honda. She valued the life I built, students, integrity, everyday normalcy. Some afternoons, she sits in my office reading the cards from students, marveling at how much they appreciated me. I listen, and sometimes that's all people need. Poison only works if you drink it. 16 years of blind trust had almost killed me, but instincts and observation kept me alive. Now, my mornings smell like freedom, taste like black coffee, and feel like survival. That's everything.